You think success comes from working harder, but here's what nobody tells you. The people winning right now aren't grinding more hours than you, they're thinking differently. And once you understand how their minds operate, everything you thought you knew about achievement gets flipped upside down. But first, you need to see why most people stay trapped in the same cycle while others seem to glide through obstacles like they don't exist. Let me paint you a picture. Two people face the same problem, a sudden job loss. One spirals into panic mode. They blast out resumes to every company they can find, desperate for anything. They take the first offer that comes through, and 6 months later, they're miserable, underpaid, and counting down the hours until Friday. The other person takes a breath. They step back. They map out where they actually want to go, who they need to connect with, and what skills the market is screaming for. 3 months later, they're not just employed, they're thriving in a role that actually excites them. Same crisis, completely different outcomes. The difference isn't luck, it's not talent, it's strategic thinking. Most people believe strategy is some corporate buzzword reserved for executives in boardrooms or military commanders studying maps. That's the first lie you need to unlearn. Strategic thinking is your personal operating system for navigating life. It's how you turn chaos into clarity, obstacles into opportunities, and confusion into confident action. When you operate strategically, you stop being reactive. You stop letting your emotions hijack your decisions. You start seeing 3 moves ahead while everyone else is still figuring out move one. Here's what really happens when you don't think strategically. You wake up and immediately check your phone. Notifications flood your attention. Someone's angry email from last night, a text that triggers you, news that makes you anxious. Before you've even stood up, your mental energy is scattered across 12 different directions. You respond to what feels urgent instead of what actually matters. You say yes to things that drain you because you don't have a clear filter for what aligns with your real goals. You work all day but make zero progress on what truly moves the needle. You're busy, exhausted, and somehow still behind. That's life without strategy, motion without direction, activity without achievement. Now, let me show you what changes when you develop a strategic mind. You wake up with intention. Before the world gets access to your attention, you anchor yourself. You review what actually matters today, not what's screaming the loudest, but what serves your long term vision. When a problem hits, you don't react from emotion, you pause. 3 seconds, 5 seconds, long enough to ask yourself the one question that changes everything. What outcome do I actually want here? That pause, that tiny gap between stimulus and response, is where your power lives. Because in that space, you choose the smart move instead of the fast move. Strategic thinking starts with one brutal truth you have to accept. Most of your decisions up until now have been driven by feelings, not logic. You acted because you were scared, or excited, or pressured, or bored. Your emotions grabbed the steering wheel and drove you straight into walls you never needed to hit. I'm not saying emotions are bad, they're signals. They give you information, but they're terrible decision makers. Think of your emotions like weather. You can't control a storm, but you can choose how you move through it. You can panic and run in circles, or you can find shelter, wait for the right moment, and move with purpose. Strategic thinkers feel the storm, but don't let it dictate their path. Here's your first practical tool, the 3 second rule. Before you respond to anything that triggers you, pause for 3 seconds. In those 3 seconds, ask yourself 3 questions. What outcome do I want? Is this reaction helping or hurting that outcome? What would the strategic version of me do right now? This simple habit will save you from more disasters than you can imagine. It'll save relationships, it'll save your reputation, it'll save you from sending that email you'd regret or saying that thing you can't take back. 3 seconds, that's all it takes to shift from reactive to strategic. But thinking strategically isn't just about pausing, it's about training your mind to see further. Most people are stuck in short term thinking. They make decisions based on how they feel right now, what looks good today, and what solves the immediate problem. Strategic thinkers ask a different question: where do I want to be 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now? And then they reverse engineer every decision from that future point. This is called long term thinking, and it's the single biggest advantage you can develop. Because when you're clear on the destination, every choice becomes obvious. You stop wasting time on distractions, you stop saying yes to things that don't serve the path, you start moving with focus, with clarity, with power. Let me give you a real example. You're offered a new job. It pays more than you're making now. Your first instinct might be to jump on it immediately. Money solves problems, right? But a strategic thinker asks deeper questions. What will this job cost me in time, in energy, in stress? Will I still have space to build the skills I need for my real goal? Does this position me better for where I actually want to be in 3 years, or does it lock me into a path that leads nowhere? That pause, those questions, could be the difference between 3 years of growth and 3 years of regret. Now, let's talk about clarity, because without it, you're driving blind. Most people have vague goals. They want to be successful, happy, and financially free. But vague goals create vague results. Strategic thinking demands precision. Instead of saying, I want to be successful, you define exactly what success looks like. I want to build a business that generates $50,000 a month in revenue and gives me the freedom to work 4 days a week. I want to be debt free and invest $10,000 a month by age 40. I want to spend every Friday with my family without work interruptions. See the difference? Specificity creates strategy, vagueness creates confusion. Once you have clarity on what you want, you reverse engineer the path. This is where most people fail. They stare at the goal and feel overwhelmed. It's too big, too far, too impossible. But strategic thinkers don't start at the beginning. They start at the end and work backwards. Let's say your goal is to publish a book. You don't sit down and try to write it all at once. You imagine yourself holding the finished book. Then you ask, what's the step right before this? Getting it published. What's before that? Finishing the manuscript. Before that, writing one chapter a week. Before that, outlining the structure. Before that, carving out 2 hours every morning to write. Suddenly, your impossible goal is just a series of manageable steps. That's reverse engineering. That's strategy in action. Here's another critical piece. Not all tasks matter equally. Strategic thinkers prioritize based on impact, not urgency. There's a massive difference. Urgent things scream for your attention. They feel important because they're loud. But important things are often quiet. They don't demand immediate action, but they create massive results over time. Learning a high value skill. Important, not urgent. Networking with people who can open doors. Important, not urgent. Planning your next strategic move. Important, not urgent. But most people ignore these things because they don't feel pressing. Then they wonder why they're stuck in the same place year after year. Use this filter every single day. Before you start working, write down your top 3 goals. Then look at your to-do list and ask, does this task directly serve one of my top 3 goals? If not, eliminate it, delegate it, or delay it. This one habit will save you hundreds of hours over the next year. It'll also give you permission to use the most powerful word in your strategic arsenal: no. Because once you know where you're going, you get to say no to everything that doesn't take you there. Saying no to good things is how you say yes to great ones. But here's where it gets deeper. Strategic thinking isn't just about planning, it's about gathering the right information before you move. Most people act on guesses. They move without insight. They confuse motion with progress. But every master strategist knows this truth. Information is ammunition. You don't walk onto a battlefield without knowing the terrain, where the threats are, and what resources you have. Yet people launch businesses without researching their market. They make career moves without understanding the industry. They enter negotiations without knowing what the other side wants. That's not confidence, that's recklessness. Smart strategists gather before they go. But here's the key. They don't gather forever. There's a balance between overthinking and underpreparing. Some people research endlessly, hoping for perfect information, but perfection is a myth. You'll never have 100% certainty. Other people leap without looking at all. Both extremes are dangerous. The strategic approach is this: learn just enough to understand the landscape, identify your knowledge gaps, fill the most important ones, then move forward with a strong but flexible plan. Think of it like building a house. You need a blueprint, but you don't need to know every nail before you start. You refine as you go. Here's a 3-step method for turning research into action. First, collect smart. Use 3 filters for any information you gather. Is it relevant to my specific situation? Is it recent and timely? Is it from a credible source? Second, synthesize fast. Don't just copy information, combine it. Look for patterns, contradictions, and hidden opportunities. Third, act immediately. Apply your insights in a small, low-risk experiment. Test fast, learn faster. Remember, data without direction is just noise. Insight without action